I've been investing in AI for like 10 years. So, yeah, it's relevant now and people are starting to see the power of it. But there's so much it can do to revolutionize health, business, helping to buy time back. Like there's some cool things there. I got lost in work ethic, not working smart. And I wish I would have learned to work smart much earlier on. So you can still do that in a business setting, but I didn't at the beginning have the people and I outperformed because I worked hard. So it was good for me, but I didn't know how to scale a team. I didn't know how to bring people on. I didn't know how to delegate at the beginning.
And I'm going to have my boys listen to this podcast too. And just like Justin said, if you started earlier, and it's no different in health. My people say, I wish I would have known you 10 years ago, but at least start today. The Chinese proverb, when's the best time to plant a tree? Well, it was 20 years ago, but the second best time is today. And so
right.
I don't think there's any reason why you couldn't get started in investments. Hey everybody, it's Regan Archibald with Unreasonable Health, and today I've got Justin Donald back in the saddle, and he's here to talk about some brand new things that are going on in the lifestyle investor community. He's going to talk to you about ways that you can increase your happiness, increase your wealth, and increase your relationships by focusing on great investments. And Justin, really good to have you back on the show.
Thanks. Yeah, great to be here, Reagan. Always love getting time and even just catching up off air here before we hit the record button. I love hearing all the cool stuff that you're up to. And, in your world, I just, want to give a shout out to you. You're so great at what you do. And I love being a bit of a guinea pig in my own life where I want to, I love my health. I want to take it seriously. And if you know some hacks, I want to try these things out. And I'm just a huge advocate and proponent of you and peptides and all that you teach and do. So yeah,
Oh
love
man,
geeking out on it with you.
I appreciate that, and I'm excited to see what your experience is like with the cord plasma.
Yeah, that would be
You'll get
great.
that in the next couple of days, and you should see a big difference. And I love talking to you because I always learn new things about how to frame life so that we're not always chasing money and we're not always like behind the eight ball. Because I grew up in a house like you did, where money doesn't grow on trees and we can't afford it, and you know the story. But maybe you could just kind of give people the framework of thinking when it comes to building a lifestyle that's really meaningful, and also where they can generate the resources they need to have that kind of lifestyle.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think it's really it's an interesting equation. I think when you solve for that financial equation of what does it cost me to live and how do I create the passive income to cover that, it's really fun. Like life gets more and more fun. And it's not to say that money solves all problems, but it solves the financial problems, which are often the majority of the problems. And so the reason I coined the term lifestyle investor is because I wanted to be on a mission of lifestyle first. I felt like earlier in my life, I was on autopilot. I lived a reactionary life. I put out fires and I, went from one meeting to the next, and really just life happened to me versus taking the time to intentionally plan out what I want life to look like, what I want my family to look like, what I want my time to look like, and actually happen to life, right? So kind of like flipping the script a little bit. And
Yep.
so I found that when I bought my time back, it became so much easier to really like create just an epic life. Now, I could have done it without doing that. I could have put the time in, and I did put some time in. But I think when you solve, there's this mental, even physical experience you get when you solve this equation of, passive income to cover your expenses, your lifestyle expenses, or at least your survival expenses. And a whole new world opens up. And that's what I love to teach. That's what I have experienced myself. And so many people in our lifestyle investor community have experienced.
Man, and this is where, just imagine buying back your time. And so many of my clients, they burn themselves out and their health gets put on the back burner. And so this is where, people like you, Garrett Gunderson, Brian Sweet, like amazing humans that help people get their time back so that they can actually cultivate some freedom. And one thing Dan Sullivan said is, he said, if the problem is not the problem if you've got money to solve the problem. And so it's like almost any problem in the world, you can find the right who to handle it for you. And so you help create that. So if there's a couple principles that you've learned recently that you maybe didn't know about in the past, I know you've just created you put in some new things in your book, and I'd love to hear what some of those insights are. But what are some of the new things that you've learned lately?
Yeah, well, for me, as you know, I love to learn. I'm a student, so I'm naturally curious, and I always just want to learn best practices or cool new things. I mean, whether it's health related, whether it's investment related, or wealth creation, or tax strategy specifically that saves a lot of money, like that. That to me is fun. So yeah, I mean, the updated and expanded edition of the Lifestyle Investor is going to come out in, probably about a month, where we don't have an exact date yet. And I really haven't shared it much. I haven't even shared it I haven't even been on podcasts much recently, but I talk about AI in there because
Wow.
for a lot of people, they're hearing about it now. It's this new thing. I've been investing in AI for like 10 years.
Mm,
So yeah, it's relevant now, and people are starting to see the power of it. But there's so much it can do to revolutionize health, business, helping to buy time back. Like there's some cool things there. I really enjoy um, meeting other successful people, and so every week I spend time with often they're entrepreneurs, sometimes they're investors, but someone that has done something really cool in their life, personally, professionally, and I just want to learn from them. And so there's just hours of content that I've learned over the years that I get to share. I get to talk about the largest wealth transfer in the history of the world that's going to happen in the next 5 to 20 years, with baby boomers passing down about $100 trillion to millennials,
Sheesh.
which is, I mean, it's massive. Like, you want to do well financially, figure out what millennials like to do, how they spend their time, how they work, what they do for recreation, how they
Yeah.
travel. I mean, how they live. Like, there's going to be huge opportunities there. So I talk about that. I get into some venture investing hacks. Uh,
Mm,
that's fun to me. I actually tell a little bit more about my story. So I wasn't allowed to share everything about the big Ponzi scheme that I got involved in, and was an investor in, because I was working with federal agents and federal prosecutors, and I just literally couldn't talk about it. So I was super vague about the actual deal. But since then, I've testified in court and had a lot of compelling evidence for the feds to be able to convict this guy that was found guilty on 7 counts
wow.
of fraud, and is going to spend a lot of time in prison. But I'm actually able to share more of that story, which is really cool.
Oh, well, maybe you could share a little bit with us now. I mean, that's fascinating. What happened?
Well, so it was interesting because this is a company that was, for all intents and purposes, a very successful company, and was doing things by the book, no financial issues, for like 27 or 28 years. But
Mm,
then some algorithms changed. They got into a pinch. They borrowed some money. They weren't able to pay investors back. They borrowed more to pay them back, but they basically raised new money to pay back old
oh,
investors.
wow. Yeah.
And then they just got in a position where it spiraled out of control, and there wasn't anything that they could do. But um, I have a whole section in my book called Murphy's Laws for the Lifestyle Investor, like all the things that could go wrong will go wrong, and how you can
Yep.
plan for it. So it's like the worst investment of my career actually became the investment that has made me the best investor of, my professional life. And
Wow.
in the moment, you would have never seen it. In the moment, it hurt. This is $1 million, close to $1 million loss. And but I've just learned so much through it. It's been so helpful. Even the copious notes and due diligence that I did. I mean, There were flags, there were warnings that I looked past because I was already cashing paychecks, right? I was already
Mm,
cashing those
yeah.
distribution checks, thinking too much with how good the return looked or felt or would be, and not scrutinizing the deal enough.
Wow. And that's fascinating because a lot of people would just get bitter and, be like, investing's not for me. I'm going to go back to a job or whatever. But it shows your character because you looked at it and you said, how much can I learn from this? So you extracted $1 million education from that event. It's, oh, well, I mean, your ROI has been far more than 1 million at this stage, I'm sure.
Oh, 100%. Because it's funny, there are these patterns. Like, even just having a firm investment criteria that I run all my deals through, and a lot of the things that I look for are things that were in that deal, right? So, I
Um,
mean, when I say look for, look to avoid, look to at least quantify or qualify. So yeah, it's been massively successful. And by the way, we had some insurance money from a bank that's coming back to pay a bunch of the investors back part of it, because they actually should have caught the Ponzi scheme.
oh, wow. Good news. Okay.
Yeah, but
Cool.
it's a silver lining, but really the big silver lining is the education.
Yeah. Wow. Fascinating. And one of the things, if any of you are in Lifestyle Investor, Justin's mastermind is phenomenal, because the level of detail and care that you put in there, it's not only, I mean, you bring up all the amazing things to look out for with investments and the things to go after. But the group that you have, it's fun because I don't really swim in the world that much, but I'm really curious and fascinated. And it's opened up the doors for me to get into certain investments that I've enjoyed. But what are the mindsets that you find your best investors have versus the people that are just entering into this world? And what do you do to kind of bridge that gap for them?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, thank goodness this deal I'm referencing I never did in our community. This is just one I did as a one-off myself. Too risky of a deal still for me to feel like I should share it with too many other people. But what I will say is we get a lot of entrepreneurs in our community. And because they were successful in entrepreneurship, they think they're going to be successful in investing. And many of them have learned the hard way that they're not, or many of them are recognizing that they had a big exit. They don't know what to do now. They're afraid to lose money, or they lost some money and they need to figure it out. And so it's interesting, but we got to help them bridge that gap. We need to let them know that just because you were good over here on the entrepreneurial side of things doesn't mean you're going to be good at the investment side of things. Like, you've got to study, you've got to prepare yourself, and this is information that shouldn't be outsourced. I mean, part of it can be, but part of your own financial literacy is taking it into your own hands and building up your tool belt and your arsenal. So yeah, and really, it's helping people gain clarity and create an investment criteria for why they would or why they wouldn't invest. So beyond any of the deals, it's not about when someone is onboarded into our community, they get accepted in. Um, the last thing I want them to do is rush into deals. We
Yeah.
want them to actually, first and foremost, create your investment criteria, create your goals, and like life by design. What do you want life to look like? Let's find some tax strategy to more than cover the tuition. And then let's dig into, some of the education that, we have world-class speakers and educators, people like you that we bring in that are
Yeah.
best in class at whatever the thing is that they do, right? Whether it be health, whether it be finance, whether it be tax, whether it be investments, vetting deals, you name it. And then from there, we can get comfortable with people then having the, I guess, knowledge and having done the homework to be able to invest and know how to invest wisely and know how to invest the right amount for them, and really trying to follow the ultra wealthy demi-billionaire, billionaire, maybe centimillionaire asset allocation that the wealthiest people in the world, and specifically in the US, use.
Yeah. Well, and it's amazing because the individuals in your group are non-pretentious, amazing humans, and they all want to help each other. I mean, I think a lot of times you think of like a stuffy group of like white dudes that are just out there like talking about money. It's not that at all. It's all like purpose driven. There's meaning, all kinds of men, women from all, all races, and it's really cool the group that you've established. And you actually have a unique opportunity. May 9th is you've got a little mastermind event, and usually they're just for members, but you've got a few seats you're opening up for the public. So I don't know if you mind sharing that, because I know we have some people who'd be interested who will listen to the show.
Yeah, sure. I mean, generally 99% of what we do is lifestyle investor members only. We did this event in the fall where we opened it up to about 20 seats, and we do small events. We don't like massive events. I like everyone getting to know everyone at an event. So it's designed for our members, but we're opening again another 20 seats because that last event was so successful and we found so many people. And we do screen people. There's an interview process to kind of apply and get in and be part of it. But we're looking for right fit people for our community. That, part of the reason that our group's not pretentious is because that's one of the rules. Anyone that has a big ego, they're not a right fit for us. We know it. We want humble people that want to learn, that are eager to teach and share their gifts. And, that's really who we look for. So yeah, this event that we're doing, actually Garrett Gunderson's coming in this weekend. He and I are kind of laying everything out. But he'll be at this. We're going to take the deepest dive on life insurance that either of us have ever done before. So that'll be fun. We've got Rob Dial, who's going to talk about the wealthy mindset. And then we've got 3 people from our mastermind members that are 3 different walks of life. One's a highly paid guy on the corporate side. One is a guy with a very successful business, but he's actively involved, actively running a business. And the third is a guy that has exited 2 businesses. He does not run anything right now. And the 3 of them are doing a tax strategy panel to talk about all the stuff that they've learned and implemented and utilized from resources in our community, which is neat. And then we've got this awesome investment group coming in that I think is world-class in what they do. And I actually believe that they have built the best software that exists for managing and tracking real estate. There are companies that try to white label their infrastructure, this tech stack, and they refuse to do it. It's just for them, and we're going to have them teach and share. And I think as a bonus event the day before, for anyone that goes, we're actually doing a vetting deals masterclass that we're going to turn into a course. So we've got one of our lifestyle investor mastermind members who is very high up in Fox Sports as a producer. She does, NFL and World Cup and all this stuff. And she wanted to give back and help us produce some actual courses. So my friend Hans Box, who I think is world-class at vetting real estate and private equity and private credit, he and I are going to go back and forth and actually create a course and masterclass on vetting deals.
No way. Oh, man, that's going to be action packed. And any you guys, most people in our audience know Garrett. He's been on the show a couple times. Good friend of mine and yours. And so that if you're think of investment as just talking about money, when Garrett gets on the stage, he will make you laugh and cry, and he'll make you think completely different about the way you see money and the way that you framed it in your brain. So that sounds amazing. And so what's the best way for people to get information on that or get access?
Probably just go to lifestyleinvestor.com/live, and all the info's there. You can apply and set up a call with our team. Yeah. And we're happy to even kind of accelerate those that are in your community, or accelerate the process for those that are in your community as well.
Oh, beautiful. I appreciate that. And so if you look at, you mentioned this big transfer of wealth that's going on with the baby boomers, $100 trillion, which I can't even like it's just such a high number. So what are you doing personally, or what are people doing in your community to prepare for this?
Well, it's figuring out what are the again, the trends, I mean, in some cases, these assets are going to come in the form of businesses. In some
Mm,
cases, they're going to come in the form of real estate. In some cases, they're going to come in the form of just money in a trust that, this next generation has access to. And so it's going to come in a lot of forms. So, what are we doing to prepare? It's figuring out, will we have an opportunity? What about these baby boomers that don't have kids? Where are
mm,
their assets going to? A lot of them, they don't even know that they can sell their business because they are their business. But they don't see the value of their customer base or their systems that they've never really detailed out, right? So it's not truly a business, but someone could come in and buy it for very cheap because they were just going to close the doors and be done and retire, right?
yeah,
Or they don't need a whole lot from it, or they don't know that, what a true value of that business is worth. And so you could create a win-win scenario, often even a seller finance scenario. It creates the opportunity with kids that inherit real estate that don't want the real estate. They want to cash out, and maybe they're not as savvy on real estate prices, and they will sell off market to, the highest bidder. So
yeah.
there's just going to be tons of opportunities, and that's just on the assets. That doesn't even include like paying attention to the trends of how millennials live life and
Hmm.
really exist.
Yeah, that's fascinating because I have a daughter in college, and my sons are not really like my daughter's a great student. She loves school. My boys, they're both graduating. They'll be done with school this next month, and I keep telling them, I'm like, do a business that's like a trade because. I that's how I got through school. I had a construction business. I had a remodeling company, and it was phenomenal because I learned how to do something valuable and exchange. And I'm like, I see what carpenters make today, plumbers, electricians, and I'm like, it's not a sexy business, but those, it seems like for them, it's like, well, we could invest, $100,000, 200,000 in college education, or you could put that same kind of money towards a business, and then they get real life education. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, what advice would you give your kids?
Well, I love it. I mean, I think it's great advice. I think that education today is not what it used to be. You don't even need it for most professions out there. So, unless you're going into some specialized field like being a doctor, being a lawyer,
Sure.
you don't need it. I mean, if you want to be a tradesman, you're going to need some specialization, but it's probably in trade school, not in a traditional college or university. So I think the education is less relevant. You have companies that are willing to hire people with no college education. If you know coding, if you know AI, if you know just robotics, if you know a ton of stuff, right? So
Yeah.
the education itself is becoming less relevant. But you bring up a great point of the trades. I would actually make the argument that a lot of trades pay their people pretty well compared to just pay in general. All lay out all the
Mhm.
jobs, plumbers do really well, right?
Yeah.
Better than most people think. But owners of a plumbing company, owners of an electrical company, owners of an HVAC company, they do extremely well.
Yeah.
And the opportunity there is just incredible because we have a shortage in housing. Housing's always going to be here. It's going to be a must. People are always going to invest into their homes. It's
Hmm.
just these home service businesses are highly successful. A lot of these, will transfer hands as baby boomers retire, but a lot of these will start right now with people that can create better systems, right?
Mm.
So yeah, and you get a good multiple on the exit of these because they're in demand.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you could go back and you're 18, and it was the economy that is now, what would you do?
I got started in real estate, so my bias is that I know and understand it really well. And when people say, "What's your biggest regret?" or "What would you do differently?" it's like, I just would have started sooner. Like I would have started when I was
Yeah.
18.
Yeah.
So, and I started my first company when I was 17. So part of me is like, oh, would I go back and become an entrepreneur? I think those skills are really important, but real estate is probably the easier way to do it.
Mm.
So I would probably go the real estate route, but not for a second do I, wish that I had done things differently. I mean, my entrepreneurial experience was great and the grind was worth it, but I got lost in work ethic, not hard. I got lost in work ethic, not working smart. And I wish
Mm.
I would have
Yep.
learned to work smart much earlier on. So you can still do that in a business setting, but I didn't at the beginning have the people and, I outperformed because I worked hard. So it was good for me, but I didn't know how to scale a team. I didn't know how to bring people on. I didn't know how to delegate at the beginning. So I
Well,
think either path could be great, but I do think the real estate path is probably the uh, lower maintenance, lower maintenance on the body, the mind, everything.
yeah. Well, you're speaking like the lifestyle investor. I mean, because you're like, because yeah, plumbing. It's like, okay, you're gonna get phone calls at the middle of the night. You're gonna have to, you're gonna have plumbers not show up. But yeah, real estate. There's some wisdom there. What was your business as a 17-year-old? What were you doing?
So as a 17-year-old, well, in seventh grade, I started selling newspaper subscriptions door to door.
Yeah.
And did really at first I did horribly with it, but eventually I became good at it and I did well. And then when I was 17, I started running my own crew. So I would hire kids, some of
Wow.
them friends, some of them just I'd place an ad in a paper. I would hire these kids to go door to door like I did, selling coupon books, newspaper subscriptions. I mean, whatever I could find, at least like $1 per subscription or coupon book margin that I could make on the top, we would sell. And so that was the first business.
Wow, isn't that well, you already were learning how to scale. You leveraged the oldest form of leverage, which is labor. Yeah, right
That's right.
there.
That's
That's
right.
amazing. Wow. And then you went from there, from the newspapers and the coupon books. Then where did you go?
I'd started a Cutco office. So I used Cutco to pay for my college. But while I was in college, I ran a branch office for them and did really well and really enjoyed my time and learned that I was actually, because of my time selling newspaper subscriptions and working with people there and creating scripts, handling objections, like all the sales stuff, I was really good at the people side of things, motivating and holding people accountable. And so our teams really performed well. And I did that. I kind of started my own business under their umbrella, and it became one of the largest operations in Cutco. And their standardized training and programming ended up being what I created for the company for a long stretch of time.
Man, and that company's still going strong. I
That's
mean,
right.
how cool is that? And then from Cutco, then is that when you got into real estate? Is after Cutco?
Yeah, I started getting into real estate while I was at Cutco, and I also started another company, a single family home maintenance company, while I was at Cutco. And that company took off and did really well. And it's called Stellar Inc. And it is a company that works on behalf of the largest institutional owners of real estate and services their portfolio in the geographical footprint that we're in. So that company's operating really well. And then the real estate portfolio really took off from there because I just started taking all the money I was making, basically doing recruiting and sales for Cutco and putting it into both the business and the real estate.
Wow. And Stellar is the name of the company,
Yeah.
and it's still going.
Yeah. We've had a Series A and a Series B, both successful, both big name companies investing in it. Series C is probably right around the corner.
Wow. And what age were you when you started doing you must
Um,
have been in your 20s?
Yeah, so I was in my 20s for both.
That's
Yeah.
cool. Where
I
would you
still
say,
wish I would have started sooner, but I'm still happy, that I started.
isn't that crazy though? Because yeah, I appreciate all the work I did in my 20s. I'm sure you feel the same when you look back. You're like, because I was working long day. I mean, I was in school and doing my internship and then starting my practice. And I look back today and I'm like, I'm so glad I had such a great I grew up on a farm, so you had no choice but to work hard. And didn't know how to work smart, but I did know how to work hard. And I'm glad I learned that skill in my 20s because then I had great 30s, even better 40s. My 50s are going to be amazing. So, yeah, isn't that cool? So appreciate you sharing your story because I think it helps. I think for anyone out there, and I'm going to have my boys listen to this podcast too, and because I think if you just stick with something for long enough, and just like Justin said, if you started earlier, and it's no different in health, I always, I have people say, I wish I would have known you 10 years ago, but at least start today because, the Chinese proverb, when's the best time to plant a tree? Well, it was 20 years ago, but the second best time is today. And so
That's right.
I don't think there's any reason why you couldn't get started in investments. Justin's given you a wealth of knowledge today, and then the invite to his mastermind May 9th. And is that in Austin? Is that where
It's in
that?
Austin. Yeah.
Okay, great. And I know a lot of you live there locally, so don't pass this up. Not only will you, I mean, it sounds like you're going to learn how you can. Justin's promise is always like, hey, we'll show you how to get, your money back, an ROI just on your taxes alone. And nobody likes to tip Uncle Sam, especially these days with the way the
That's
government
right.
goes. So,
That's
so
right.
yeah, stop doing that. It's Garrett Gunderson taught me that a long time ago. Like, don't tip Uncle Sam. And I was like, oh yeah, hello. But yeah, some great things there. But and then you've got your new book rolling out, and you expect that to come out around the same time, sometime in May.
Yeah, yeah, it'll probably time it pretty close to the live event. We've got tons of extra content. I mean, I think we're probably close to 150 to 200 extra pages in the book of just additional content. Yeah, so I'm really happy with it.
And you kept the Ten Commandments. So Ten Commandments
Yes.
of investing is that's kind of the core. And so if you guys will definitely want to jump into that. Well, this has been amazing. Justin, if you had one piece of advice you could give people right now who they want to buy their time back, create more financial security and a better financial future, what would you say?
I think, I would just do what I have done myself, which is find people that are playing the game of life, business, health, wealth creation at a higher level than you and learn from them. Spend as much time with them as you can. Join communities, join masterminds, join organizations that these individuals are there and just glean the wisdom from them, learn vicariously through them. That really is one of my biggest keys to success is that I've intentionally put myself around people that just always are playing a much bigger game than me. I like being a small fish in a big pond.
Well, you've done a phenomenal job, and the great thing about you, Justin, is you're very generous with your knowledge. You're generous with your introductions. You've introduced me to some of the coolest humans on the planet, which I really appreciate. And I appreciate you taking the time to share your knowledge with me and my community. And what would be the best way for people to get in touch? Is it just lifestyleinvestor.com, or is there another place you'd like them to go?
Yeah, I'd love to do something kind of cool for your network and your community. I mean, for sure, lifestyleinvestor.com has everything: podcast, blog, master classes, courses, mastermind. I mean, all the stuff is right there, free. More on the expensive, higher value, and then everything in between. We have a mobile home park investment masterclass, a tax strategy masterclass, a passive income masterclass, all kinds of stuff. But what I'd love to do for your community, at the end of every podcast episode I do, I challenge my audience and I say, hey, what's one step you can take today to move, towards financial freedom, to take one more step towards life by design, not life by default. So being intentional with your time. And
Mm.
so I love giving people that opportunity for one more step. So we do these consultation calls with people. They're $500, but I'd love to gift it to anyone in your community that would like to learn more. So pro
Oh,
bono, no cost to you at lifestyleinvestor.com/consultation. We've got our team that can help you figure out what your next step is.
beautiful. Man, how about that? Well, there's your next step is, yeah, work with some experts, save yourself some, I mean, the nice thing about it is you'll save yourself some trauma. Justin's made some mistakes and he's written about it. So we can learn. So Justin, thanks so much. And really appreciate you being on. And for everybody, if you enjoyed this show, make sure you share it with your friends, family, loved ones. And I appreciate you guys. We'll see you next time.